Everyone's going to see Catching Fire next weekend. I don't give a damn who you are. You could be a 5-year-old kid in elementary school, a wealthy proprietor of a carpet business, or me, a complete and utter geek who did not expect to get so into a young adult series, but was pleasantly surprised when I picked up a little book called The Hunger Games a few years ago. But here's the thing. Y'all who haven't read the book series are about to come into a rather unfortunate realization. Catching Fire sucks. It's just a terrible story. Essentially, it's the first book again, but with different characters in the Hunger Games. Big friggin' whoop. It sent this story that started out as this really amazing, unexpected political allegory and threw it into this spiral that Mockingjay had to spend a good half of the book buckling out of and covering the ground of. Now you may say, well, Michael, that's great that you have that opinion, but you certainly don't know what to do about it. What would you do if they told you to write a sequel to The Hunger Games? Well, as a matter of fact, I'm going to give you my pitch. I'm going to tell you how I think the Hunger Games series should have panned out. Obviously, this is going to be very detailed, so full spoilers for the entire series. And without further ado, this is how the Hunger Games trilogy could have been great. So in order to do this, we're basically going to have to go back and reformat the entire trilogy. So let's start out with Book 1, The Hunger Games. Now, it takes place in this futuristic version of America called Panem, where there's this dictatorial capital that runs all of these districts, these 12 districts of the country. And because of this great war that forced this capital into rule, they forced the districts to pick 2 kids and put them into the Hunger Games to be tributes to fight to the death on live TV, essentially. Now let me set the scene for some of the characters in this. You've got Katniss Everdeen, who is played by Jennifer Lawrence in the movie. She is a strong-willed survivor who has grown up in this world and has learned how to adapt and be strong in this universe with the help of her friend Gale. Now, when Katniss's baby sister Prim is basically raffled into these games, Katniss takes her place and basically sacrifices herself to be in these Hunger Games. And what we go into next is just this brilliant socio-political satire where we see the society's obsession in the media with violence and celebrity. You introduce to this other character, Peeta, who's from District 12 also, who becomes a celebrity in his own right by forming a love affair with Katniss for the cameras. There's not a whole lot, I think, that needs to be changed with the first book. I think it's pretty solid overall, especially once you get into the arena and you see things like Katniss forming this doomed relationship with this young girl named Rue, who ultimately dies saving her, and just all these great elements kind of mixed around. You start to see that Peeta truly does have feelings for her, and then at the end, they defy the Capitol. Now, here's where some changes need to be made. When you move to Book 2, as it stands now, not a whole lot of relevant things happen until the very, very end. They go on a victory tour, some bad stuff happens, the Capitol threatens them, and what it all amounts to is that it's the 75th Hunger Games, also known as a plot contrivance, where now they throw all the previous winners of the Hunger Games into the arena, and Katniss and Peeta are thrown in again, and they fight a bunch of odd characters, and it's boring. Making the victors a little bit more colorful characters sort of helps, but it doesn't amount to a whole hell of a lot until the very end, where you find out that Katniss's home, District 12, has been destroyed. It's been decimated because her survival and her rebellion against the Capitol has caused such an uproar within the districts themselves that the Capitol essentially wipes District 12 out. That ending should have been the ending of the first book, because then you immediately set the stakes for the rest of the trilogy. There's not this whole second chapter that's basically filler to get to the next book. So my version of Book 2 would essentially be what they did for Mockingjay, the third one, where you import that story now to where District 12 is destroyed. Katniss finds out that one of the districts that was said to be destroyed, the 13th one, actually does exist. There's this pseudo-leader named Alma Coin who kind of enlists Katniss to be the main symbol of rebellion. And to make a long story short, this whole war breaks out, and ultimately what happens is that Gale, who's Katniss's friend from the beginning, who's basically spent this whole series being jealous and not amounting to a whole lot, builds this device that drops bombs on things, and ultimately this brigade of little kids comes out during the war to help the sick, and Katniss's little sister's among them, and she gets blown up. She dies. She's out of the picture. She's dead. And Katniss, because of this and because the capital, or the new country ultimately takes over, they decide that they want to teach the capital one final lesson by holding another Hunger Games. Katniss doesn't like that, so instead of killing President Snow, she kills the leader of the main country, President Coin. And you may think to yourself, well, wait a minute, that sets up a whole new row of possibilities, but it doesn't in this book. They just declare her insane and throw her in a home, and Peeta joins her and marries her, and that's the end of the series. This is really my essential thesis here. After the events of Mockingjay basically transpire, where I would start book 3 is right after she kills President Coin. Now, the entire series is subverted now, because everything that Katniss has been fighting for throughout this entire series has been destroyed by her own hand, because she feels that what she's fighting for is just as bad as what happened before. That is such a fascinating dynamic that Suzanne Collins didn't even touch. She just ended it, and that pisses me off so much. The third book, as I would have it, would be essentially Katniss being on the run from what she created and trying to essentially take power from them and seize it once and for all and become the leader. I think that you could have had a lot more interesting conflicts within her. In the first book, it could have explored her resolve weakening. In the second book, it could have been her righteous spirit kind of rising. And in the third book, and this is what I think Suzanne Collins really missed, I think that it would have been really fun to see her become arrogant, to see her, through killing President Coin, all of a sudden having this resolve of, I am the righteous leader, I am the one that needs to be on the throne, so to speak. It would have been really awesome to see our protagonist make that turn, not into a villain, but just into someone whose personality has been so shaped by being in these god-awful events. Frankly, I would have been more looking forward to watching Jennifer Lawrence play this character, who I think is a superb actress, one of the best we've got right now, if she had more to do. This is an actress right now who can play any role she wants and play it perfectly. And if we had all these different levels for Katniss to be at, I would say this is a role that would be worthy of an actress right now. But right now, it's starting with Catching Fire and moving into Mockingjay, it's just going to seem like she's out of place and that she could be doing just about anything else. So am I saying this is the end-all, be-all solution to the Hunger Games? Absolutely not. If you enjoyed Catching Fire and you enjoyed Mockingjay the way they are, absolutely, go for it. Go next Friday and enjoy yourself. But I'm disappointed is what I am, because I just feel like this story had so much more potential than what they ultimately went about doing with it. But with that being said, I begrudgingly think Catching Fire does look like a good movie. I think that switching the director to Francis Lawrence was a good call. He's a great visual director. He's made I Am Legend and Constantine, and he has a really good sense of like shot compositions and post-apocalyptic stuff. So I'm interested to see what he's going to do, at least on a technical level. It's just, I'm always going to have that little shred of disappointment with this series, and now that I've got it off my chest, I can move the hell on with my life. Newsflash, I'm not going to move on with my life.